The first thing African people have to know is this, is that the name of our continent was never Africa. The name of our continent was Ethiopia, burnt face, mentioned in Genesis chapter 2. The name Africa comes in the last part of the last millennium, when General Africanus, an Italian Roman general, defeated the African army, and it was his privilege and his right to name what he conquered. In Psalm 68, when the Bible says, "And Ethiopia shall raise forth her hands," God is taking us back to our original mandate of African people and telling us, you have been designated as wealth managers.
Ethiopia, the first utopia. When you think of Ethiopia, what do you think about? What do you see? Ethiopia was the first utopia in the world. And Ethiopia is where we get the Pan-African colors, or the Pan-African colors are in Ethiopia. This is a country that, however you look at it, it's either the country that got its emancipation first, or it's a country that was never colonized, because it was occupied, but not completely colonized. It was occupied by Italy. Ethiopia is one of the most interesting countries in the world. It's mentioned in the Bible. And when it's mentioned in the Bible, it's crucial to understand that Ethiopia refers to Africa. Ethiopians are Africans. Ethiopians are Africans. Africans are Ethiopians. Everyone in Africa is an Ethiopian. This is why we have the same flag, like with these colors, like the green, the red, the gold. These are the Ethiopian colors. To be Ethiopian, or to be Ethiopian, does not mean that you're physically in that place, because it's an understanding. Just like having Zion doesn't mean that you're physically in a certain city made by God. It's an understanding. It's an agreement. It is knowing true dominion and territory. So Ethiopia is a place that can be anywhere. This is why Jamaica is Ethiopia. The people in Jamaica are Ethiopians. People in Africa, the Negroes, so-called Negroes, they are Ethiopians. So Ethiopia is a generic term that is used for all Africans, and this is how it's applied in the Bible. So when the Bible is speaking of this place called Ethiopia, it's speaking of a place where the people called Nubians. These Nubians are, like Nub actually comes from the Egyptian, which means gold. So this is the places of gold. And Nubian also means just black-skinned. These people were burnt-skinned. So all of the Ethiopians were black people. So back in the day, to get an understanding of this, back in the day, if I were to go to Germany, right? Germany didn't exist then. But then if I were to go to Germany, they would just say, "Hey, check out that Ethiopian dude." So Ethiopian is just referring to these people, and the people who come from a certain continent. And within that continent, of course, you have different types of people. So it's just like how you'd see like European people as being the same, but Irish is different, you know, but they're all European. So this is the Ethiopian understanding of it. Ethiopians are Africans. So Ethiopia was the first utopia. These Ethiopians actually encompass also these Egyptians. So all of the land was just generically referred to as Ethiopia, just like how Europe is just referred to as Ethiopia. But if you think of like England, UK, Britain, these are different, but they're the same. Okay, so the first utopians were these people who had this understanding, and they were able to teach people. This is how people came to Africa. They used to learn from these Nubians. So they used to learn from these burnt-skinned people. So this happened for thousands of years. But slave trade happened. The thing is, the Bible was used as a means to enslave the people's minds. So as it happened, is that like the people came with this idea, this ideology, in order to get people to be subjected to them according to the principles that they were interpreting in the Bible. So one of the reasons that they justified the slave trade was to say that Africans are not human because they are the sons of because they are the sons of Ham. So Ham, if there's a story in the Bible where Noah is drunk, and then one of his sons apparently in a mystery uncovers his nakedness. So people believe that Ham slept with Noah's wife or did something of that sort, and then Ham had a curse, but the curse was put on his son called Canaan. So Canaan is Cain and Abel. This is where the curse is. This is the person who was cursed in the beginning. But anyhow, Canaan went and settled in the Middle East, while the other sons of Ham, so Ham had 4 sons. Ham had 4 sons, and these ones came, the 3 sons came in Africa, the 1 son went to, stayed in the Middle East, and these are the Canaanites. And when you're referring to the Canaanites, you're referring to them. So when slave trade happens, it was actually based on this biblical principle that was saying that since these people were cursed by Ham, then they're supposed to be our slaves. So you have to understand that this happened 400 years ago. And now it's time to set the people free. It's been 400 years of slavery. So it's now time to leave that paradigm. It's now time to leave those pyramids that they've been building in the minds of the people, these hierarchies that they've been creating with this false ideology. It's now time to leave that and go through another Red Sea, go through another rebirth, because everyone comes out of the water, just like how the Israelites came out of the water. So it's been 400 years since they've enslaved a whole nation, and it's up to us if we want another 400 years of this type of slavery, you know. So it's just about understanding that the truth is in the Bible, but when you know the truth is in reality, that Ethiopia was literally the first utopia. This is where people were developing skills, mathematics, they were developing engineering, they were developing science, they were developing engineering, technology, mathematics, astrology, everything. And these things are what we still use today. So believe it or not, it's weird, but these things are, this is the holy grail of Western society, of Western civilization. Things that were discovered thousands of years ago by Ethiopians. So these Ethiopians, as I said, these are just people from this continent of Africa. And it's actually not called Africa, it's actually called Ethiopia. That's the thing. Africa is the name of a conqueror, a Roman general, who was Scipio Africanus, who defeated Hannibal. When he defeated Hannibal, Africa took its name. And there was also another Greek person who used to sign his letters. Like, he used to research Africa, and people believe that this was a black Greek, because the first Greeks were black, the first Romans were black, they were Ethiopians. But anyhow, this person was called Africanus, so he always used to write his name after his letter Africanus. So this is also where this name is derived. But the word for it was Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is referring to the skin of the people, Ethiop. So these Ethiops were people who were black-skinned, and they had woolly hair. These people were renowned for their erudition and for their skills in learning. So understanding that because 400 years is a long time to be a slave, to be trapped, you're bound to lose your humanity when people treat you as being subhuman. I was watching so many documentaries about how people view Africans, and it's actually the prevailing point of view that European media wants to postulate the fact that Africans are so subhuman, as if the problems that they caused in Africa are not the fruits that we see today. That a person would come into a country and just say that, hey, all of this land is now mine, and I'm going to kill everybody who is living in this area, and we are going to be mining for the rest of our lives, and we're going to start building with your labor. And as if that's not enough, other people are going to be like, all right, now we're going to go to this city, we're going to raid it, and all of these people are going to go and live in America as slaves. And they wouldn't just take like just this skinny little dude, but they would take the strongest, bind them, whip them, beat them, and keep them for years under servitude. And some of these people were actually kings. Some of these people were royalty, nobles, wise men. But if you were a person of wisdom, they would kill you. So many Ethiopians were murdered, Nubians were murdered because of their knowledge, because this was war, this was a conquest. So if you justify this as war, then this is so barbaric that they would say that we're giving them this word of God, we're giving them this knowledge and understanding of God, but let's first kill them, and let's kill the barbaric, and they don't deserve the same thing as us. And this is something that was ingrained in the people's mind, something that I still see with my own eyes today, that people still have not left that colonialist mentality, because they believe what they were told, that they were nothing. So when you read the Bible, this is a book that was used for a certain purpose in order to trap people, because it's that powerful. But when you look at it, when you look in the Bible, when you look at in reality, you'd realize that Ethiopia, through Aksum, which was a kingdom where Queen of Sheba reigned, who is Makeda. Sheba means wisdom, the queen of wisdom. So this is why she was looking for wisdom. She went to find Solomon, who had wisdom. So she found wisdom. But she also had wise questions to ask him, which shows that she is wise. So Queen of Sheba, Makeda, and she went there, and she actually used to reign in a certain place that was adjacent to, like, that is on the Red Sea, which is the kingdom of Aksum. Today it's Eritrea and Somalia and a little bit of Ethiopia, because these were just lands, no borders. And she used to have that kingdom on the African continent and in the Middle East, because this is how they used to roll. So her kingdom was part of Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Yemen. This was Aksum. So we know that it was at least that big. This is how she was just able to travel north and then to go and see Solomon. So through this, she was actually controlling trade through the Red Sea. Ethiopia was actually controlling trade in the whole Asian and African continent, which was also linked with the European and Western countries. This is actually the Silk Road. The original Silk Road is the Ethiopian trade route. So if you look at the Ethiopian flag right now, it has this star. This star is what they want to recreate as the Silk Road in terms of China, but this is originally Ethiopian. So they had all of this wealth and this control of this trade route, because this was before the Suez Canal. So for anyone to transport goods through the Mediterranean to go to Spain and Europe and stuff, you'd have to go through Egypt for a shorter route, unless if you want to go around the world. So this is how the Red Sea was so important for Aksum. So Aksum was very dominant in commerce and in all of the international transactions, and through this it was able to interact and to trade with different countries all over the world. So it was a major city in its time, and it was one of the most renowned cities in its time. This is kingdom, sorry, not cities. Aksum was a kingdom. And this was the place where Christianity actually started within the African continent, that the first people who were converted into Christianity were in this kingdom of Aksum, which is in Eritrea, and this spelt over to Ethiopia. And today Ethiopia has the oldest churches in the world, has the oldest Bible in the world, which is called the Ethiopian Bible for some reason, but should just be called the Bible. But it has the oldest Bible, and it has the biggest Bible, by the way, and it has the understanding of the scripture, because they were able to actually transcribe all of the scriptures into a language, an African language. An African language. This is important to understand, that they'll tell you that in Africa they didn't have language, communication skills, literature, but they have G script, and through this language they were actually able to translate the Bible, which is not an easy task, because what you're doing is you're translating this in terms of meaning, resonance, and metrics. Verses are metric compositions of words. So You need to have the understanding of numbers and words and letters and resonance and all of these things. So they translated the Bible into G script. And so many countries in Africa actually had their own languages. Even Liberia had its own language, like Cameroon, they had their own alphabets. Like literally all of them, because these people were Ethiopians. So an Ethiopian is a person who is referred to as being of black skin with woolly hair, right? So this is not something that is given to a certain one country. But the reason why everyone is Ethiopian is because Ethiopia is not conquered, and Ethiopia, or was not conquered. This is the understanding of what Haile Selassie did on fought through. This is the hypocrisy of the League of Nations and of the UN that was exposed through his reign, because these are the people he was fighting against. Mussolini actually went to Ethiopia and occupied it for 6 years, and the League of Nations didn't do anything about it. They were actually just saying like, all right, it's bad, but they didn't do anything about it. And this is one of the reasons why the League of Nations didn't work, because of Haile Selassie. So Ethiopia was a major key party in the whole world. Haile Selassie was an actual emperor who traveled like over 100 countries. In his reign, he went to over 100 countries in the world as the King of Kings, and his name means the one with the power of the Trinity. So Ethiopia has one of the oldest churches, Ethiopia. So when you read the Bible, when you look at the book of Acts, you're gonna discover or come across the story of Philip. Philip is in an area, he's healing people, he's raising paralyzed people, and now they're walking. The lame can now walk and stuff like that. And the Spirit tells him, hey, go to this desert area and you're gonna see someone there. He goes into a desert, and then he sees this Ethiopian eunuch. This eunuch is like a person who works in a kingdom, right? A eunuch. So he's in a court, and he's a person of wisdom, obviously. So he's actually in Israel. He's traveling the world. He's an Ethiopian, a black person, and he's actually in a chariot. So he's actually a person of riches and of wealth. But what's important is he's actually reading, he's actually reading. He didn't know that people from Africa could read, right? But this is like the same year that Jesus died. So this is 2,000 years ago. So Jesus has just died. Philip is in the Holy Spirit, and this guy is already reading a scroll of Isaiah that he got. So first thing, he's rich, okay? He's a eunuch, so there's a kingdom somewhere, because there is an actual queen mentioned in his kingdom. So he's part of that regime. So he's with other black people, because he's being escorted by these people. And he speaks to Philip, and he gets baptized in the process, and the story goes on. So this happens in the New Testament, right? In the Old Testament, we all know the story of Solomon, and how the Queen of Sheba went to him. So she was an African woman, an African queen. So meaning that there was already this kingdom, there was already a queen of wisdom. She was the wisest person before he came. That's why she had to go to him and see if the wisdom was true. So she was renowned for her abilities, because this is back in the day when women didn't have the status, but she had this queen status. Anyhow, she creates this offspring. Like with Solomon, they have a child, and this child ends up being Menelik, who ends up being a great, and then Solomon is the descendant, is the father. Haile Selassie is the descendant of this person through Menelik and through Solomon. And this is the understanding of how Haile Selassie came about, and that was his claim to the throne and all of that. So one thing to understand is it's important to realize that there are roots of Christianity all over Africa. So the missionaries came with the Bible with a certain false dogma, according to this doctrine, which was intended to trap people's minds. Africa was not actually meant to be evangelized by these people, because there was already evidence of Christianity within African continents. So within African territories. So through Aksum, this is where the Queen of Sheba was. Through Ethiopia, this is where the eunuch met Philip. So this eunuch is already reading. This eunuch already has the possession. The scroll of Isaiah is already in his possession. So these people are already reading these things. This is how they're able to like have the G script Bible. They have their own Bible, the oldest Bible, the biggest Bible, the oldest churches in the world. Okay, so this is crucial to understand. And if you even look further down in Zimbabwe, there's actually a tribe. Not a lot of people know this, but there's actually a tribe of true Hebrew Israelites, true Jews who claim that they came with the Ark of the Covenant, and they're actually hiding it. That's why people don't know about them, because they have their secrets, but they are actually the people who live in Zim. They actually live in Zimbabwe, and this is in the heart of Southern Africa. These people are Jewish. They're a tribe called the Chilemba. So they're actually the people who are associated with the areas like the Great Zimbabwe. They're associated with them. So they actually married into those families when they came from Israel. And these people are black, right? Obviously, they're black. So all of these, and in Ethiopia, you also have Hebrew Jews that live in Ethiopia. Some of them live in Israel and all over the world. So all of these people had this understanding of Christianity, and they could read, they could write, they could reason. And what we're told is that they couldn't read, they couldn't write, they couldn't reason, which is not true. So in the Bible, you see that this eunuch is a rich dude who works in a court, and he's already reading this. So just the thing to understand is what Philip asked him, and this is the whole point of this video. The question is, do you understand the book of Isaiah? When Philip approached him, he asked him, do you understand what you're reading? So the same thing is, he was reading the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is so important because this is the book that Jesus was quoting most of the time. So, do you understand this book? Because this book is the key to understanding what is happening in this world. So the book of Isaiah is speaking about how the people in this world are deluded, how the people in this world have been lied to. This is why Philip asked him, do you understand what that this book is talking about, you Ethiopian? Do you understand the book of Isaiah? It's talking about the Ethiopians. So when it talks about Egypt, it's actually talking about Rome. When it talks about Judah, it's actually talking about Africa, because these African Hebrew Israelites identify as Jews. The Jews are everywhere in Africa. These people are actually the ones who have the Ark of the Covenant. So when you ask the Ethiopians, they say that they have it. When you ask the other ones in Zimbabwe, they say that they have it. So this is just the thing, that they know certain things that people don't know they know. So people who are telling you certain things are missing certain elements that distort your view of the Africans, of the Ethiopians, of everyone who is of this continent or of that continent. So having the right perspective is knowing reality and applying it to the facts. So when you see that this Ethiopian was reading the scroll, the scriptures, and you see the Queen of Sheba is already engaged in terms of wisdom. She actually has these wise questions to ask. It makes you wonder why it is that you don't see this side of this of Africa or of this continent in such a way that paints a perfect picture, or paints a tolerable picture, or even just a considerably close picture to what the reality of the people is, to what the reality of their way of life was, that they were people who were humble, people who were actually so smart that it's startling to even consider some of the things that they achieved with the means that they had, because some of the things that these Africans, Ethiopians did, Nubians did, we can't even do it today with our modern technology. So the next time you read the Bible, read Isaiah and ask yourself if you truly understand that it's talking about you.